Hello! Alright, I've just moved in to my college accommodation. I wanted to take you on a little tour of the books that I brought with me. I have a pretty substantial book collection, but this year I've decided to live more frugally, and so I thought I would bring a few less books with me when I moved out of home over the summer. So these are there's a few others, but these are the main ones that I brought with me today, and I'm just going to take you on a little tour of each one of them and tell you basically why I brought it over some other things. So, the first book I've got is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood by Quentin Tarantino. You may have seen the movie. This is like a movie novelization, and the novel is written by the guy that wrote and directed the movie. I don't know if I explained that super well, but it reminds me of those books based on movies that you would read as a kid, but for adults. When he was writing the movie, Quentin Tarantino sort of said that he actually wrote it as a book first. So even though it's a novelization of a movie, a lot of this predates the writing of the movie that eventually came out. This book sort of goes a bit deeper in on some of the characters and events that happen in the movie, like gives a bit more detail, and you sort of can see a bit more into the thoughts of the characters, because that's not something that you can convey very easily in the movie. I haven't read this one fully yet, but it's a nice one to just sort of pick up if I want to read a book, because I've already seen the movie. I already know everything that happens, so I can sort of just flip to any old chapter, and after a little bit of reading I sort of figure out where I am in the movie and then get a bit more depth on that scene. So this one's not exactly like a sit down and read cover to cover, it's more of a pick up every once in a while and enjoy. So that's that. Before the Coffee Gets Cold. Now, I actually just yesterday went out and bought this, because this is book 2. Originally for this video I was going to show you book 1, but I gave that to my mum and she's reading that currently, so you're not going to see that one today, but I have just started reading book 2. Love the first one. It's about a cafe in Japan that lets you time travel if you sit in a specific seat. There's lots of other things that go on, but each book has like 4 mini stories in it. So I like that because it makes it really easy to break up. But yeah, it's just really well written. I like the characters and it's got a very good vibe. It's, I would say probably one of my favorite books at the moment. I'm really enjoying, just started the second one, very much enjoying that. So yeah, I would say this is probably one of my favorite books, series that I have of all time. 1984. This is a classic. This is my copy I bought when I studied this near the end of high school. It's a great book, very dense. I've only ever read this once, but I guess the experience of reading it and then studying it in school really meant a lot to me. It was kind of the first novel that I really dug into and sort of got to the meat and potatoes of what it was about. And so it holds a very special place in my heart, and for that I always take it with me everywhere. I think also more and more it's becoming relevant in the modern era, and so I think more now than ever it's important to not let what this book is about be forgotten. So that's why I kind of just keep it with me in case any of my friends ever want to read it. Alright, Chaos by Tom O'Neill. This book and this book kind of go hand in hand. This movie is about the Manson murders. So Charles Manson, cult leader that killed a few people in the late 60s. This book is about Charles Manson, and this reporter, this investigator, begins writing an article on the Manson murders and ends up going down this massive rabbit hole for 20 years, uncovering all these things that had never been figured out before. What I appreciate about this one is that it's not like other true crime books, because it's all about the perspective of the journalist who was figuring things out, and the narrative is from his perspective. So you see him slowly unraveling this dark Hollywood mystery. And I think that's what really made me stick with this one. It's pretty heavy for a true crime, and I'm not really very much into true crime, but that's kind of what made me stick this one out. Fantastic book, and the things that he uncovers are super interesting. Alright, starting point. This is a collection of essays from Miyazaki, the director behind Totoro and Spirited Away and a lot of other movies from Studio Ghibli. I actually have both this book and the next one, which is called Turning Point. And what I really enjoyed about these ones is that they give a lot of insight to his creative process. So like a lot of the advertising for this talks about how it's so relevant to animation, which it is. But I think that in general, it's a great read for anyone who is interested in making stuff, because I found it so helpful in seeing through how his approach to understanding the natural world and gaining inspiration from the things that are around him or out his window. Literally, he would look out his window, look at a tree, and then come up with the plot for a movie. I think his creative process is like the real gold that can be found in these books. So that's why I keep them here, for sort of inspirational purposes. This book, Parasite, so it's another book from a movie, but this one is the storyboards that the director drew when making Parasite, the movie. And so you can kind of see he's taken his storyboards and sort of turned it into a graphic novel where you can see the whole movie. And like, I just appreciate this as a testament to the director's just ability, because the whole entire movie is storyboarded out here. There's not a single thing that is not in here. You can completely understand the entire plot of the whole movie just by reading this book. And so I just think this is interesting as like a kind of a cool coffee table book, but also an interesting artifact of the power of this story and the power of storyboards in general for when you're making something using a camera, which I do. Last book. It's a big one. This is, oh, it's got stuff all over it. Berserk. This is a Japanese graphic novel or manga. And it is about this guy named Guts. It's sort of like a medieval dark fantasy. I just love the illustrations. I think the story's great. Yeah, super interesting book. All these really great sort of 2-page displays. I tried reading it online, but it just didn't have the same effect. And so even though these bad boys are expensive, I got the first one, loved it, and I'm just waiting until I come into a bit of money to invest in book 2. But I keep it here because I have a lot of manga at home, but this is probably my favorite, and it's the most cool looking, like this leather bound tome with the red writing and stuff. It just looks so good on the bookshelf. Obviously the book is great, but I think that the presentation is what makes this a good one to keep with me at all times. So yeah, these are the books. I hope you enjoyed. Hopefully you'll catch the next one very soon. Thanks for watching.